It's a refitted aluminium factory. Alright, I'm coming. Hi everyone, and welcome to my aluminium factory tour for Satisfactory Update 4. Here we have the entrance. It still has the road that leads down onto the ground below the trees there. But now we have a huge rail network above. And the inside has changed quite a bit. We still have the alloy copper ingots being produced here, 400 per minute. We have the vehicle here, and now we have over here the primary factory power switch and a box of supplies, health, etc. And over here we have the light control for the bridge network at this end of the world, and the forge power. But new to this factory is a hypertube network here. One leads to the nuclear setup, and the other leads to the factory down in the Crater Lake, down there in the fog. We now have all this empty space for future projects. At the moment, I'm only producing enough for what I need in the welder. I still have to go back to my main factory and set up the conveyor belts and the machines so that the additional items can be made. We still have all of the silica being made over here and being used. And we still have the water packaging system set up here. However, it always stays pretty much idle now, unless I am fully stocked with the parts I require. So as you can see, the pipe now is only going up with pressurized water when there's enough water in excess in the system for the packages to recycle. This helps reduce the amount of items heading off to the recycler, to the sink. So we can see here at the top, I am using the instant scrap recipe in the blenders, which outputs the water. But as you can see, the water is quite backed up. That is because I am not producing everything in the production lines at this stage. What I would need to do if I wanted the blenders to speed back up is go down underneath here. Sorry for the frame rate, it's getting a little bit crazy. I'd come down to the underneath here, and at this valve I can just change the amount of water going through per minute, sending it off to the packager at the other end of the factory over there. But the water that is outputted from the blenders, from the first three here, goes back into the second set of three blenders, and the water that comes out of those blenders comes to here, shoots off to the left if it's needed, and heads to the system over here, which I will show you shortly. And the excess pipes off down that way to the packages. Using the instant scrap recipe has also changed things quite a bit, because now I have a spare belt here with items on it waiting to be used. I had the beacon telling me how much is on it. And it's the same thing over here at the other end. I have 3 conveyors all with resources on them. Sorry, 4. One hiding under the belt here. 4 under here, all with resources on them, telling me exactly what's there. For future use in the factory, as I'm thinking I will need to increase my aluminium production. Also some other changes that have happened on the underneath side of the factory. We'll just go down and show you. Because I am now reusing the water in the system, we only have the 5 water extractors. There used to be at least 12 down here, but now with the instant scrap and reusing the water, we don't need them anymore, so that's excellent. We'll head back up. I have just unlocked the hover pack, but I haven't put any power cables in for the hover pack to recharge in this factory at the moment. All power cables are hidden in the floors. So this is not very helpful for when I'm trying to be up in the air, so that's why I'm still using the jetpack. Then we come down to the next section here, and hidden behind these crates we have forges that are producing the aluminium ingots. These are all just the standard recipe for aluminium. So that's the entire row all along here, right over to the other side, producing quite a large amount of aluminium ingots per minute. The top row of aluminium ingots here, which is 180 ingots per minute, goes off to these 2 constructors, which are overclocked, and they produce the aluminium castings. They then go into their storage bins and merge here to go across to these 6 assembliers. Only 4 are in use at the moment, and these 4 assembliers are making heat sinks. And then it all comes down to the blenders at the front here to make the cooling systems. We have 4 blenders here making cooling systems. Which then comes to the front here, and the 2 mergers on this side merge into these 3 boxes. Those 2 merge into those 3 boxes. Then those 2 boxes in the center merge together and head up to a secondary storage area before heading up to the trains above. Each section has its own power switch. And I now have 2 sinks in here. It's 1 sink per 3 blenders, because the blenders output 300 scrap per minute. So I have 3 going to each, and it seems to handle that okay, as I'm actually reusing the scrap from the first set of 3 splitters. I make it come down here into the system here, as this row that's making the cooling systems is actually slightly overclocked and needs just that little bit more aluminium scrap to help produce the final product. At the moment, each group has an excess of 10 aluminium scrap per minute. So it all comes here first to make sure this row has what it needs before it heads off to the sinks over there. As you can see, there is very little water now coming into the system for scrapping. And there is no silica at all now being synced. The silica just stops if there's too much on the belts. We'll just run down to the other end of the factory. Oh, I am also training in sulfuric acid for the blenders here. From the factory I have down in my nuclear setup that makes the sulfuric acid. It has had a massive overhaul and extra refineries put in. So we now train that in for production here. In the future I am looking at putting in some drones as well. So I'm just using this one here as a sign to say the trains are up there, up the ladder. I have the power for the blenders here. This is the power for everything up in the pink forest above. Nothing has changed up there except for the fact that the coal miners up there are now overclocked to have the maximum per minute on the belt. We just have the water packaging power. I haven't put any lights in down here yet. Just not sure how many more production machines I'll need to put in, or if I'll even need another row of blenders just yet. But here we have this production line. The bottom production line is making aluminium castings, and the top production line is making aluminium sheets. This one here is heading off to the nuclear factory to use to make batteries to power the drones. I use drones down at the nuclear factory now to transport quartz, as the truck station bug still hasn't been fixed, so I replaced the trucks I had down there with drones, and I must say I'm really in love with those. Not as much as I'm in love with trains, as you can see from past videos, and you'll see in future videos I use a lot of trains. I absolutely love them. And this one here, aluminium sheets, it's just heading up to a train up above and heading off to the main factory for usage. But at this stage I won't be using it at all. And the middle row is making aluminium castings again. This row here and that one row on the bottom over there is all going together up above and heading off to the main factory, which will be used in the production line in the future, probably shortly after I've made this video. So we have 300 copper ingots, copper alloy ingots, no longer being used. They're just sitting there waiting for future usage. And we're back to the blenders at the front making the cooling systems. can take you upstairs now to the train stations. The train station floors are actually fully lit up for nighttime usage. This end of the world, well, the aluminium factory and the factory down in the lake are the only two factories that have lighting in them at this stage. So this area I've just kept dark because there's nothing here. We have one train here. This train is bringing in products for the packager to package the water. We have this train here, which is bringing in rubber from the Crater Lake to use in the production of both heat sinks and cooling units. We have this train here, which is the train that heads to the nuclear factory carrying the aluminium sheets. And we have all of this area just designated for future train stations. And I have made some nice windows for the train stations here. I used the method of using the walkways to be able to get the foundation to go wherever I want them. You can see that in my move foundations by 2 meters without mods video. That I can put in the link below, as well as a link to my old aluminium factory in case you haven't seen it. And for that video I apologize for the audio quality. I hadn't had a decent microphone set up at the time. So there we have the light control for the bottom floor here. And with the top floor, I started changing the color above the stations so that it matched the product coming in. So the sulfuric acid has yellow lights above, which you may have seen when we were coming up the ladder earlier. We just have another exit point to head up to the pink forest. So the sulfur train has yellow lights above it, just to help me at night indicate that it's the platform where the sulfuric acid gets dropped off. This one here is just controlling the lights here. And we have this train here, which is the train that heads back to the main factory. It takes 8.5 minutes for this train to go from one end to the other and back. So again, I just have the window settings here. I actually quite like this setup. I'll probably use it a bit more in future factories. And extra space for train stations, or maybe something else. It would be interesting if I could get drones to fly in and out of the doorway, but I'm pretty sure they'd just go across the top and come down through the foundations. So we have 5 trains coming in here at the moment. So it's turned into a bit of a busy network hub. And that's about it for this factory. It's taken me pretty much since update 4 came out to refit it. I have no idea how much aluminium scrap, aluminium sheets, or silica I recycled when I destroyed the internals of the factory before putting all this equipment in. But I'll try and get the stats together and show you a quick posting before I put this video on YouTube. Please consider subscribing, liking, and hitting that notification bell for future videos. And until next time, I'll see you later.